Now, as I mentioned at the outset, January 15th carries two memories that sit uneasily side by side in Nigeria's story. On this day in 1966, the sound of gunfire ended Nigeria's first democratic experiment. Decades later, the same date is set aside to honor the men and women who have worn the uniform and paid the ultimate price to defend this country. Today, that symbolism feels especially heavy. Nigeria is battling insurgents and bandits at home, scrutiny and pressure abroad, and even threats of foreign intervention, while asking its armed forces to remain professional, restrained, and firmly under civilian rule. At the center of it all is General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Minister of Defense, recently the Chief of Defense Staff, and now the man tasked with fighting insecurity without repeating the mistakes of history. He has warned those he says excuse or enable terrorists. He's also pushed back against dangerous international rhetoric, and he carries the burden of defending both Nigeria's borders and its democratic soul. So what does January 15th demand of Nigeria's military today? And has this country learned enough from the past to secure its future? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Nigeria's Minister of Defense and former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much.
And Happy New Year.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your appointment as Minister of Defense. This is the first time I think I'm seeing you since your appointment.
Thank you, yes.
And it is instructive that virtually everybody in this country endorsed the fact that you were appointed minister. Yes. That's a great vote of confidence.
Yeah, it's a great field. Very well, very well.
But it's also a huge responsibility.
A huge responsibility, yes, yes.
But I'm sure you will wear it well.
Very well, thank you.
Now, you are, of course, a soldier, and now you are defense minister.
Yeah.
What does January 15th personally represent to you? A day of honor, a day of warning, or both?
I think both. January 1566 was an unfortunate incident that occurred, and like we said, it's part of the history of Nigeria, and so we can't do away with it. And now I think the important is, what do we do after that? How do we prevent repeating such mistakes in the future? And I think steps have been taken. Celebrating today, especially those celebrating those ones that are still fighting, trying to make peace in Nigeria, and those who are passed on, I think is very important. It's relevant because it shows that Nigerians appreciate what the troops are doing, including those that have passed on. And for those ones that are still fighting, it's a booster, a moral booster to them, that Nigerians are still with them, Nigerians are praying with them, and everybody is praying for success in Nigeria. And I think that's very important. And I can see the awareness is getting better than how it used to be in the past.
But how does the Nigerian military reconcile honoring its fallen heroes on the same date that marks the first military coup against civilians?
Yeah, the military coup was supposed to be a disadvantage on what's going on. But again, we have turned it, like they said, when stones are thrown at you, you turn it to build castle. It was supposed to be a very sad event, but what we've done is, instead of glowing over it, we have looked at what best way for the nation to appreciate that there are individuals that are also dying daily, staying awake just to make sure that the country is peaceful. And I think for us that's very important.
And after decades of coups and counter coups and an extended period of military rule, has Nigeria fully succeeded in placing the military firmly under democratic civilian control?
Correctly. Very, very well. That's one thing I'm very proud of. The Nigerian military have stood up to its responsibility, subjecting itself to military rule, military directives, and you can see that the military actually thrives better in a democracy. For us in Nigeria, it's always been very better when we have a democratic government in place.
Right. So you meant subjecting themselves to civilian rule.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So that's what's going on, and I think that's what we'll continue to support. Countries around us have gone the other way back into military misadventure, which we believe, but we're also reaching out to them for them to understand that democratic governance is far, far better than the military rule.
So what lessons should today's armed forces, who you've presided over as Chief of Defense Staff and now Minister of Defense, I mean, what lessons should today's armed forces draw from 1966, especially at a time of public frustration and great insecurity?
Yeah, I think first and foremost to know that coup is wrong. Nobody should ever have that in mind. I think Nigeria should do it. From now onward, nobody should ever think of carrying out a coup or something in Nigeria. We must all put hands together to support the democratic norms in place. We must continue to work hard to make Nigeria peaceful and secure for all Nigerians. And I think that's one aspect that we must all put hands in there. And we want to call on to Nigerians to understand that the armed forces or security agencies can't do it alone. We must all as Nigerians take this as a Nigerian challenge and work towards making peace.
Well, that brings me to fighting insecurity today. Yeah. Nigerians hear, and we've heard it over the past few years, claims of progress against terrorism and banditry, yet many communities still feel unsafe and seem to be getting progressively less safe. How close or far are we from real lasting security in this country?
I think we're closer now than ever before. We've had, you keep on getting one story of the other of one attack or movement. Is a large country. And what they normally do is, wherever we have cleared and have moved forward, they come behind and want to attack. And the idea is to give that sense that there's insecurity. But I can tell you broadly that things, at least the atmosphere is getting a lot better than how it used to be. But we need to do more. And of recent, Mr. President we had a lot of direction from Mr. President to do more. And we have also brought out what our challenges are. Mr. President is addressing those challenges. We're getting additional platforms, additional support, and I can assure you Nigerians that they should continue to be very, very positive about it. What we say is why these guys are thriving is because we have some certain individuals that still support them, trying to trade with them. I can tell you, how do they maintain themselves having fuel? How do they get food in the bushes? There are people that take these things to them, that give them information about troops movement, that provide this logistics and information to them. If Nigerians decide today, communities that have decided not to support them are free. So that's why it's important for Nigerians to understand that the security men cannot be everywhere. So everybody has a responsibility to offer support to the armed forces. Once you see something going wrong, report as quickly as possible.
But that sounds like there is a gap somewhere that intelligence isn't working. Because if you, as you're saying, that obviously people supply them with things, they get their, provisions from somewhere, and yet you don't seem to be able to get on top of that.
No, like I said, we cannot be everywhere. And then sometimes once these informations come, because of the nature of the terrain, like I told you the other time, we have situations where you have, because of IEDs, if you have information for you to move, 10 kilometers will take you more than 5 hours. Because if you make a mistake and you step on an IED, everybody is dead. So these are the challenges we're having. And that's why we say we should look at what are these things that got us to where we are today. Things about justice, fairness, equity, infrastructure development, which is being done now. I think we need to do more. And when we have that, it will also assist. And it will also be able to look at how do they get their recruitment. Because when there's poverty, illiteracy, the government is doing so much into doing that. But we need Nigerians to come together to say no to what's going on. And I think that will help us a lot.
And I remember you've made this point before, but it sounds like your assessment is that Nigeria's security challenge is not so much primarily a military problem. It's also become a governance, intelligence, and social crisis that guns alone cannot solve.
That's what I'm saying, because of the aspect of the kinetic and the non-kinetic. The kinetic aspect cannot solve all the problems. It will only provide an enabling environment for all other aspects to take place. And I think that's very critical. We mentioned the issue of our borders. Efforts are being made to, and that's why we are going to extend more with our relationship with Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Benin Republic now, because they are equally beginning to face a similar issue. I think on a general term is for us to understand that what is going on now is a world challenge. It's a challenge that's challenging the entire world. And just like the way ISIS started and the entire world came together to defeat ISIS, look at what's happening in Mozambique. Look at Burkina Faso, look at Mali, look at Nigeria and other countries. So it's something that we all must come together to work against what's going on.
Now, US President Donald Trump threatened to go into Nigeria, guns are blazing. That's become a bit of a cliche now. How seriously does Nigeria's defense establishment take such statements, keeping in mind that in the past, Mr. Trump has seemed to step back from actions and then taken those actions?
Yeah, well, I think the rhetoric was overblown. There's nothing happening like guns are blazing. Nigeria is a sovereign country. Whatever we did, whatever happened or whatever is going to happen, we have that collaboration working together jointly. I can tell Nigerians clearly that whatever it is that an American is doing in Nigeria or is going to do in Nigeria will have to be together, discussed, planned, executed together. No country will just fly into Nigeria and do whatever it feels like doing. No, it won't happen that way.
Right, but does that kind of rhetoric risk undermining Nigeria's sovereignty, or does it reflect a failure of Nigeria to control the narrative around its security crisis? Because, for example, you're a Christian, you're from the north, you're surrounded by Muslims to a large extent in the north, and a lot of Christians from the north have come out to say that they feel that they're under siege. Can you relate to what they're saying?
What I need to say is that Nigerians are being killed. Christians, Muslims, non-Christians, non-Muslims have been killed. The truth about it is that we have certain individuals that target certain individuals. We have the ISWAP, the Boko Haram. It's not a federal government policy to go after Christians. And that's one thing that we want to make very clear, because most times the international community has this intention to feel that as if Nigerians, the Nigerian government is planning to eliminate Christians. No, it's not the government. But we have certain criminal elements that want to take advantage, and they have their order of priority.
But can you understand, sorry to interrupt you, that if a Christian minority community is living in a place where they're entirely surrounded by a Muslim majority, the state in which they live is a Sharia state, I mean, can you understand the fact that those people might feel a tremendous sense of oppression in that place, and oppression that may well lead to fears and concerns about attempts to eliminate?
Fear is natural. Fear is human nature, and there could be perception. I was born and raised in Sokoto. I grew up in Sokoto. I spent my entire formative years in Sokoto. I went to my primary school in Sokoto. My secondary school, it was going to Nigerian Defense Academy that I left Sokoto. Naturally, people will have felt, but I had one of the best upbringings in life because Sokoto was wonderful. I'm still very proud of growing up in Sokoto. Some other communities, and it's not only for the Christians. The same thing with the Muslims too. Wherever they are, and there's probably a large population of Christians, they probably might also feel that sense of fear. Fear is natural. If you give birth to a kid today and you put him in the dark, he gets scared. Fear is natural, and perceptions are there. We know that there are issues in Nigeria about religion, how we view religion, and I really don't understand why we take it so much. Sometimes I think we're taking it to the extreme, both religions. But I think we're getting it better. We're getting to understand each other. And we need to also make the international community understand that Nigerians are being killed, and it's important for the killings to be stopped. And that's the effort the federal government is doing. And anybody coming to support us, that is what we tell them. Nigerians are being killed. We want Nigerians to stop being killed.
And let's be clear that both Christians and Muslims are being killed.
We're all victims.
Now, I'm sure you know that Nigeria is now lobbying aggressively in Washington over security and these religious violence narratives. From a defense standpoint, is this about protecting this country's national image or preventing foreign intervention?
No, I think it's to protect. Now everything is about the media. I mean, the media is very powerful, and perception, like I said, is always very dangerous. Internationally, there's this growing belief, because we have certain individuals that have consistently gone to Congress to say that Nigeria is a failed state, Nigeria is failing, we need help from outside. And not knowing that the more they do that, the more they put the country in bad light. And that's why when you carry your green passport and you go, individuals look at you and view and say, look at this guy coming from Nigeria. When, this issue, I can tell you for free, just before entering the studio, I have a friend who just came in from Brazil. Before coming, the impression they gave him was, if he comes to Nigeria, they are shooting everywhere, you can't move. And he came in and he couldn't believe what he saw. Remember last year we also hosted the African Military Games. We had about 22 African countries that participated. Again, late last year we had the Chief of Defense Staff Summit. Over 25 Chiefs of Defense Staff from African countries came. And all of them, when they came, they said, look, in the press what they saw is that Nigeria is dangerous and it's not a place to go. But they came here and they moved freely. So that is the perception. I think that's what the federal government is trying to work for, people to understand that Nigeria is not bad. Nigeria is a very peaceful place. Yes, we have our own issues, and everybody does the same thing. There is no country in the world that is peaceful. You heard about the Modi attack in Australia. Australia is presumed to be very peaceful. But some individuals took up arms and killed a number of people.
Yeah, but that's a rare, very rare occurrence.
But it happens, and people are killed.
The problem in this country is that you might say to a foreigner, oh yeah, you can move around inside Abuja metropolis.
Yes. No.
But what if they ventured out of town? What if they wanted to drive off to somewhere? They just wouldn't be safe.
I spoke to a number of people. They drove from here to Sokoto, drove from here to Zaria, to Funtua, to Jos. Nothing.
Foreigners?
Yes.
But they had enormous
security.
security.
No, not at all.
Well, I'd be astonished.
Yes.
And I wouldn't advise anybody to do that.
No, well, again, that's part of the perception we're talking about.
Well, let me move on from there, because you recently warned individuals, you say support or sympathize with terrorists, referring to figures like Sheikh Gumi. What exactly constitutes support in your view?
Support, if you encourage them one way or the other, by support, telling them that what they are doing is right and that the government is wrong and that they are victims, that's why they react. No, a criminal is a criminal, and anybody who supports a criminal to us is a criminal. We must all come together to understand that criminality must be addressed. And I think that is very critical. So in one way or the other, is either you are giving them funds or you are providing logistics to them or you are giving them information. If through media you are trying to encourage them, which means you are also part of them. And I think that's very critical. And that's why I want to appeal to our leaders, especially the opinion leaders, religious leaders, traditional rulers, politicians in leadership. We should be careful what we say. It's important. Yes, there's freedom, but your freedom shouldn't infringe on other. Because the comments you make, whether rightly or wrongly, could also affect the killing or something, harmful effects on some communities. And that's why it's very, very for us to be very careful.
Do you think Nigerians, such as Sheikh Gumi, who negotiate with or publicly rationalize bandits and terrorists, should face legal consequences?
Well, I don't know. I think I will leave that to the legal, but all we're saying is that...
Yeah, but you're talking about finding ways to fight what is clearly a big problem in this country.
Yes,
you're the Minister
I think
of Defense.
for my mind is,
what would you advise?
For me, is to advise such individuals to know the status they hold in the country, and that there are people that listen to them hook, line, and sinker. So whatever it is they say has effect on others.
So it's up to those individuals. You don't think action should be taken against them?
No, actually, I'm sure actions will be taken once they cross the red line. Actions will be taken. Remember Samuel Ekpa? It was here we spoke about Samuel Ekpa and the need to get him. And immediately he was getting, what happened? The Southeast, Christmas in the Southeast was a lot better than ever before. So these are the issues that we need to do. So individuals must be careful. Nobody is above the government. Nobody. And nobody's above the law. So once you cross the red line, I know those in charge will take necessary action.
And talking about that red line, where should Nigeria draw the line between freedom of speech, mediation efforts, and actions that embolden violent groups?
Those things are, you can easily decipher those things quite easily. If you say things that encourage others to take up arms, others to continue to be emboldened into their actions, into kidnapping, into killing, because you think you are encouraging them one way or the other, I think you've crossed the line. And I'm sure the DSS, the police are taking necessary action. They are watching, and I'm sure once that red line is crossed, necessary action will be taken.
Now, you've been Minister of Defense for just a few months now, and prior to that, you were Chief of Defense Staff. What's the difference between the two?
The first time, like you said, I'm in Mufti. I'm appearing here in Mufti, which is a new challenge to me. I've been in 35 years wearing uniform, and so now every morning I have to think, what dress am I going to wear? Before it wasn't like that. But I think it's a higher calling, it's a higher responsibility. Now, again, we have to deal a lot with politics, and so which is very, very critical in what we're doing. For the armed forces, we already know what the challenges are, we know what to do and all these things, and I'm happy with the service chiefs, the CDS and the service chiefs, so we're working hand in hand. including all the security agencies. We're going to reach out to everyone that's a stakeholder in Nigeria to know that you have a role to play and that we need you to be on the table so that we can have peace.
And without putting you on the spot, which of the two do you prefer?
Well, which of the two do I prefer? I think both are okay. Being a military man, I was a civilian.
Well, that's a diplomatic answer.
Yes, before being a military man, I was a civilian. I'll serve my term and I will still go back to civil life. So you can't separate the two.
Right. So what does success look like for you as defense minister? Yeah. I mean, not in slogans, but in concrete terms that Nigerians can feel.
Yeah, success is that Nigerians are happy and they could sleep very well. Sleep with their eyes closed. Students could go back to school without being harassed, being kidnapped. Markets will flourish. Visitors could come into Nigeria without fear. But again, like I said, one aspect I think we need to do is strategic communication. We need to communicate more to the world. And I think that's where the lobbyist is coming in. We need to communicate more to the world. Because a lot of things people say about Nigeria is not what's going on in Nigeria. So I think that's where we need to work very hard more.
Now, the U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, recently announced that they had delivered some military equipment to Nigeria. Now, we don't know what that is. And there seems to be, some people have suggested, some analysts have said, oh, this is a great thing for Nigeria. It means that, you know, things have moved away from the Donald Trump sort of threat and so on. And now they've managed to establish good relations with Africa. Other people said, oh, no, there's really nothing in that equipment. It's probably things to do with equipment that they hadn't supplied, that they stopped supplying to Nigeria for things like maintaining the Super Tucanos and all the rest of it. And that's simply what they're supplying. Can you shed some light?
No, I think this could be both of them. Some of the things that came were things we were paid for in the past, and they're just coming. And some of the things are additional support that they're giving us.
But nothing substantial.
No, it's good. It's good. It may make a lot of difference to us. You know, the American armed forces are fighting armed forces, and their equipments are tested and trusted. And that's why for every equipment you get from them, you get the best of the best. So that's why I think it's very critical for us to continue. And we've been having that. We'll have a series of training together. We've done a lot of courses. We have a lot of our troops, officers that are training in America and other countries. As we speak, countries like the AAS countries, we still have them in our schools, in our training schools here, to tell you that we are very robust. And Nigeria is such a country that really has a large heart, that despite all the talks here and there, we still pull in everybody to want to make peace. And I think that's very important.
And now there was that attack, of course, in Sokoto State, which is your state. What is your reaction to that?
No, I think it was based on, actually, you know, the Lakurawas came in from Niger. You know, we spoke about them the last time. They were a bunch of terrorists that were living in Niger, and some Nigerians inadvertently invited them in. And until they started attacking, that's when the report came in. So they were targeted, and they were actually neutralized a lot. Most of them have also even fizzled out. Those ones that survived have fizzled out back. But the greatest point is that it has shown that there's commitment, that wherever you are, there's a reach that could get to you. A lot of these things that are happening is because we don't produce what we need, and because we don't have all that we need. I'm sure with this, more doors are opening. The president has... with the signing of the DICOM bill last year, it has afforded us the opportunity for DICOM to produce. And a lot of companies now are producing military hardware in Nigeria, including drones, APCs, MRAPs, and this. And I think that is very good for us, because if you look at it on the long run, economically it will be good for us. Operationally, it will enhance our capabilities.
But I'm wondering why you, because I mean, the reports we're getting is that the Nigerians supplied intelligence to the Americans. Is that a fact?
No, yes, we work together, because definitely they wouldn't know most of this. We were able to get...
So why Sokoto State? I mean, that's not...
The Lakurawas...
Lakurawa is sort of fairly down the pecking order, isn't it?
It's a new threat that is evolving. While we're working on the major ones, let's take out those new ones before they develop, before they become bigger. I want Nigerians to understand that better things are coming away ahead. Those big ones, big things are coming that way.
Do you expect the Americans to attack again? Is that part of the discussion that's going on between Nigeria and the United States?
No, we're looking at everything holistically. And what we need mostly from them is for them to give us, you know, they have this satellite system that will give you real-time info as to what's going on. And then the idea is whatever it is we see, we will be able to strike. If it is beyond our reach, they will assist us. That's
but if you called them in and supported their coming in to attack a much smaller group like Lakurawa, I mean, it suggests that you're not on top of it.
You see, that's always the mistake people make. You think Lakurawa is a small group. It's not a small group. They are as potent as Boko Haram. Very, very potent. And their spread is getting fast. So the idea was to stop it from spreading.
Right.
Yeah, so that it doesn't stain the whole place.
Well, why haven't we seen anything that shows what actually... Because even the villagers in those areas, they didn't see anything.
They wouldn't see anything. They wouldn't know, because the way they were neutralized, you wouldn't see anything. It's a new kind of weapon that was used. And I think that's...
Well, the
really
tomahawks,
that's
four of which did not explode.
Well, that is all part of the tactics. You know what we call feint attack? You deceive your enemy. Those are all part of it.
Right. I'm not sure that'll entirely convince Nigerians.
No, but at least Nigerians are seeing the results, and then they will see more things coming ahead. And I can tell you, while that shot was ongoing, as we speak, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Navy, and the Nigerian are also neutralizing a lot of other areas. In fact, within January, a lot has been achieved. So much has been achieved.
Right. When Nigerians look back years from now, Minister, should they remember this period with you as Defense Minister as the moment the armed forces finally turned the tide, or as a warning about how fragile security and democracy can be in this country?
I want them to look at it like, not to look at it, but to have that feeling, that understanding that things have changed and things are going to change, and that we need everybody on board to achieve that. I think that's very, very critical for us.
Right. And that is progressing?
Definitely.
In a way that you're satisfied?
Very well, very well. You see, now we're going beyond. As part of the non-kinetic efforts, we're also going to see how the funding are coming. Most of the monies that are being paid into ransom, what can we do about them? How do we look at, how do they move about some of these weapons within the country? The motor parks, the markets, what do we do about them? So all these new initiatives, now we want the local governments to also be very active, because what we see is that the failure of the local governments to work is aggravating the insecurity. So now we're getting across the local government chairmen. They have responsibilities. They must be able to hold security meetings weekly to be able to address what is the security issue. Because, like I said, if you have 20 local governments in the state and each local government chairman is up and doing all the states, I can bet you that a lot of things will get better. Because once we're able to deny them ability to move around, movements of weapons, drugs, and ammunitions, it will help. So everybody has a role to play.
What about that plan that you came up with the last time you were here, when you were talking about building a fence at Nigeria's borders?
Yes.
Are you in a better position to see that through now that you're Minister
Yes,
of
I'm
Defense?
happy I'm here now. I'm happy that there's so many options that have come in. Sometimes not everywhere will have, physical fence. We have electronic fences nowadays. Then we have technology to use. We have drones to apply, satellites to follow up, and then this. I think the federal government is taking it very seriously. So meetings will be planned ahead, and I'm sure very soon things will start taking place on those issues, because it's very critical for us.
Indeed. So Nigeria's borders will become secured under your ministership?
That's my hope. That's my prayer. Yes.
Minister, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for taking the time to talk to us. General Christopher Musa is Nigeria's Minister of Defense and former Chief of Defense Staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you.
Thank you.